We can't ignore it anymore, folks. In the 2026 Stanley Cup Playoffs, the player who has the highest likelihood to win the Conn Smythe is Mitch Marner of the Vegas Golden Knights. Later today, we will see game number 4 between the Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche in Las Vegas, a game wherein the Avs are going to be on the ropes. They're down 3-0 in this series to a scorching hot Golden Knights team that has been taking advantage and beating the Avs to the punch every single game. Now, believe me, there's a video to make about the shortcomings of the Colorado Avalanche, and I plan to have that out for you here on the channel before Game 4 goes down later today. But I wanted to talk about Mitch Marner and the situation in Vegas that has seen him potentially throwing shade at his former teammates. Yeah, that's right, folks. Mitch Marner is a former Toronto Maple Leaf and was a former part of the core 4 with Auston Matthews, William Nylander, and John Tavares. Marner never exhibited much success in the playoffs with the Toronto Maple Leafs. However, if you go over to what he has done so far with the Vegas Golden Knights in his one and only season up to this point, he's got 21 points in 15 playoff games. Yeah, okay, he was only a point per game in the regular season, where he had been a 100-point player with Toronto before, but this guy has been a man possessed in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. He tied his overall playoff point single-season record in just assists this year and added 7 goals on top of that. Take a look at the 2026 Stanley Cup playoff scoring race. Mitch Marner is number 1. He is miles ahead of everybody else, and he is looking like the best gosh darn hockey player on the planet right now on a Vegas team that is cruising their way to the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm not going to knock on wood just in case Colorado comes back, because I'm real. If it does happen that Colorado is able to tie this series up and win in 7, then I think that'd be hilarious. But Mitch Marner right now is in a spot where he's been able to accomplish more than he ever had, wearing the blue and white, with Nylander and Matthews as a part of their future. And when it comes to the comments that Mitch Marner made after game number 3, this is where things get very, very interesting. Take a look at this video. It was posted yesterday. Mitch Marner talks about the feeling amongst the team when trailing in games. And the important quote is that we don't turn on each other. We don't get mad at each other. Now, this has been posted and talked about a whole bunch on social media over the past 24 hours. Marner on the remarkable comeback against Colorado in game number 3, which I guess we have to at least acknowledge here. In game 3, the Avalanche were up 3-0 in the first period, only for the Golden Knights to rally back, tie it in the second, and then win in the third. Mitch Marner went out there scoring a whole bunch of points. He had 2 assists on the matter, too. He went out there and said, straight up, in the media, we have an older group that just stays patient and stays calm. We don't turn on each other. We don't get mad at each other. Now here's the thing. You can look at a comment like that and be like, oh, well, Mitch Marner is just innocuously bringing up the fact that maybe sometimes other NHL teams may turn on each other. They may get mad at each other too. But then you remember, wait a minute, it's Mitch Marner that said this. You want to know what was one of the biggest idiosyncrasies of Marner during his time in the Toronto Maple Leafs organization? An organization which he spent a decade with, by the way. He was drafted in 2015. His last year was 2025. Mitch Marner sucked in the media. And that's not to say that being a media spokesperson, speaking on the mic, speaking to reporters is a skill that you can quantify. I would say it is in general, but you don't see people who are as bad at that than Mitch Marner, especially with the evil Toronto media. This guy, it's almost like he had no media training whatsoever when he was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. For all the issues and all the problems that people had with him on the ice, his off-ice commentary would always make it worse. But it was never like, oh, Mitch Marner is a bad person per se. It was always, wow, Mitch Marner just said something really stupid that kind of throws an entire new narrative into the forefront that we can run with and that we can villainize Marner in the media with. This is not a guy who was the most eloquent with his words. So when he goes out there and says that, yeah, you know, my team here, we stay calm, we don't turn on each other, we don't get mad at each other. The fact that it's Marner himself going out there and saying that, I think is a pretty big deal. And so many people have been using this as an opportunity to say, hey, did Marner just throw huge shade at Matthews and Nylander? That's the top comment over here. No subtext there. Nope. None at all. Nope. Totally not taking shots at another organization, just a man espousing the virtues of his own team. Not that I want this to happen for obvious reasons, but Marner winning a cup as his team's top scorer immediately after getting ran out of Toronto for disappearing in the playoffs is one of the funniest things that could possibly happen. It already happened earlier when Phil left Toronto after the fan base turned on him too. Also a guy who won a cup with Vegas. The writing was on the wall the whole time. Yeah, well, the Avs have a group that live in constant fear of Nathan MacKinnon verbally abusing them. Yeah, okay, we can talk about that later in the show today. On Twitter, they're saying similar things. Here's the TSN video about it. Mitch Marner talks about the feeling amongst the team when trailing in games. This you? Okay, yeah, Leafs fans are not happy about that. Taking a shot at Nylander. Grow up, Mitch. His feelings got hurt. That's why he left Toronto. Now we know the truth. Well, maybe the truth is in the pudding. And I wanted to take a look at a Twitter thread posted by Hockey Psychology. Yeah, that's right. The great hockey YouTuber Hockey Psychology, who does fantastic work on this platform. He went out there and made a whole Twitter thread that essentially analyzes why Mitch Marner is actually playing the best hockey of his life. And I think this was a great way to go out there and end this video, so let's dive into it here. Hockey Psychology said, I think what everyone should understand is that this version, playoff Conn Smythe candidate of Marner, was never available in Toronto for a few reasons. 1. Toronto never truly built a quality team around Marner, and it put immense pressure on him and the core four to be the guy. Playing on the second line in Vegas and the squad having an overall better four-line team has allowed Marner to slot into a role that is better suited for his game. Superstars are crucial to success, but a cup is one with 18 guys playing a key role. Not just a handful. Haha, yeah, when I read this, I think about the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, well, they had 2 guys that went out there and almost ate up the entire planet, Galactus style. It didn't happen, though. They ended up making the finals twice in a row, though. 2, Hockey Psychology said, the pressure of the Toronto market was not a great fit after things went south. Vegas and Toronto are 2 different beasts, and being a Toronto kid, the noise got to Marner, especially near the end. If you go back and watch all of his puck touches in elimination games with the Maple Leafs, there is a level of confidence and swagger that is missing from his game that we see now. As a player that thrives on creativity and flow, his game would tighten right up in the biggest moments in Toronto, for reasons both tactically and mentally. By the end, it was clear that it wasn't going to work out in Toronto. Leaf fans will get buried for this, probably for the rest of time, if he wins a cup and a Conn Smythe. But it is validating for both players and fans to know that pressure, for the most part, played a big component as to who Mitch Marner could be as a player. Now, the top reply here says, oh, so that justifies getting 0 goals in games 5 to 7 over the entirety of a contract whilst being paid top 5 in the league? I had no idea. No, it doesn't. Which is why Leaf fans aren't wrong for wanting a change with Marner. They saw the peak of the player in Toronto. Marner likely reached his ceiling as a Leaf, and there is a 10-year record of proof. The fault for that lies with both the player and the organization. So do you agree that this version of Mitch Marner, what we are seeing out of the Golden Knights organization, could never have existed in Toronto under the circumstances that were bestowed upon that team? Do you believe that this version of Marner was ever available to the Leafs? And do you believe that he ended up tossing some shade to Matthews and Nylander when going out there and talking about how, hey, we don't get mad at each other? I wonder what that's a reference to. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this British Astral 9, and bye.